Why is everything broken? What in the world did I do?
Jury has arrived at a verdict.
We have a verdict. The jury has reached a verdict. We're hearing that the jury is being brought in right now. We have a verdict in the Hannah Payne trial. The jury had a question. They came with a question, wanted to watch 3 pieces of evidence. They watched the body cam footage from the police officer. They listened to the Hannah Payne, the second call to 911, and they also watched the video of the drive-by as that filmed her during the altercation. Sorry, a little rough start there. Normally we have a little bit of cleaner start, but it is what it is. We can't fix it now. Verdict time. Let's see. I show, okay, the family's behind her now, directly behind her. That's interesting. It was fast. It was just over 2 hours of deliberation time.
So in the case State versus Hannah Payne, case number 2019 CR 01737, court has been informed that you have reached a verdict. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Okay, and are you the foreperson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you kindly stand. Was your verdict unanimous?
Yes, ma'am.
Has a verdict form been filled in, signed, and dated by you?
Yes, ma'am.
If you would have the bailiff bring the verdict form to me, please.
The judge is reading the instructions. This is interesting.
Mr. Foreperson, if you would go ahead and read the verdict.
With regard to count 1 as to the offense of malice murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 2 as to the offense of felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 3 as to the offense of aggravated assault, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 4 as the offense of felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 5 as the offense of false imprisonment, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 6 as to the offense of possession of firearm during commission of a felony, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. With regard to count 7 as to the offense of possession of firearm during commission of a felony, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
That's a clean sweep.
With regard to count 8 as to the offense of possession of firearm during commission of a felony, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Clean sweep.
Respectfully submitted, the 12th day of December 2023.
Counsels, is there anything further required of this jury before I dismiss them?
If the court should hold the jury.
Okay. I will hold the jury. And so I'm just going to go sequentially and ask you a number of questions to which you will respond. Foreperson, was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Next person. Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir? Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next. Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have polled the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, you have now concluded your service on this jury. You're no longer subject to or bound by the instructions that I've previously given to you about not talking to anyone about this case. You're now free to talk to anyone you like about the case and the decision that your jury has reached. By the same token, you're not required to speak with anyone about this case. That is your decision. However, sometimes the attorneys like to talk with you to ascertain your views about the evidence and input from how they could improve. But again, you're not required to speak to anyone about the case. That is purely your decision. Again, thank you for your service and your commitment to your jury duty this week. You are free to go.
I'll be hanging out over here if they might just get
Right. You'll be outside the
over
courtroom?
near the steps.
Okay.
So she's probably going to be taken into custody immediately because she's sentenced to life in prison without parole. I believe that's the minimum mandatory for malice murder, right? The verdict was guilty on all charges. Returned after about 2 hours and 11 minutes of deliberations, possibly a few minutes less than that if the jury waited until they got evidence.
You may be seated. Ms. Payne, I'm going to remand you into the custody of the Sheriff's Department at this time. Counsels, what I do want to do at this time is set a date for the sentencing. My proposed date is December 20th, which is next
It's 8 days,
Wednesday.
a week from tomorrow.
Yes.
I think it's, I found a little bit,
Leave, but I'm willing to come back to that.
Okay.
Found it a little bit strange that the
If there are any changes, we will let
judge
you know.
was requesting the jury to give performance
Is there
reviews.
any possible way that we can have this done on Friday? I know you're already having court, and I'm already in court. The family's in from out of town,
Okay,
and they have traveled, and we are putting them up in
okay.
hotels to be here. And just for their convenience, we would request that the sentencing be on the 15th.
Okay.
The
I
state's putting up
believe
the
I
family.
can accommodate that.
I have, Bolton County is 9 in the morning, but my afternoon is wide open, where I can come after when that case releases.
Okay,
I think this would be a continuation of the trial. We would still be on trial, so this would take precedence.
okay.
She's saying that his
I can
other
accommodate
appointments
the
aren't important.
15th. I just need to see what, we have 9 o'clock on Friday, correct? We could do it after. We could do it after. I could consider 10 o'clock on Friday morning. Okay, all right. Thank you. Court stands adjourned at this time. Thank you all.
There's the family leaving. All right, the jury was out for approximately 2 hours. We're going to turn the mics off here because they're capturing stuff that's I don't know, that's a tough one. Jury was out for about 2 hours. Convicted her on all counts, guilty on all counts, all the counts of malice murder as well as the aggravated counts for the firearms. It was fast. It was very fast. But we figured this was going to be an all or nothing. Because if she didn't have the initial aggravation of unlawful detainment, right, then she's got the right to use self-defense. Then we have, things start falling apart if that first key piece was gone. That's why we saw the attorney fight so hard during this trial to say he could have got away. She wasn't stopping him from leaving. He could have driven around. He very much did not want Hannah to be in the position where she was forcing him to stay unlawfully, because she doesn't have the authority to do that. Every attempt at him to do that was met by objections and were sustained by the judge. There were 42 objections in this trial, 4 of which were ruled in favor of the defense. So he's running a little less than 10% victory rate on the objections. So that doesn't mean that the judge was not fair. It just means that the rulings went in favor of the other party. But so we imagine that she'll get life without parole. That is going to be the sentence. The plea deal she was offered was life with the opportunity of parole. But here now she's facing life without parole, and it's difficult. You're watching her dad still there in the courtroom, just trying to soak it all in. Just a tough situation. Life with parole was turned down. She will now get life without parole, if I understand correctly. Megan, I think that's correct. Now, does that mean that she will serve the rest of her life? Not necessarily. A lot of times sentences get commuted. You've seen what happens in Louisiana. We've got people who are sentenced to life in prison, and that gets commuted to 99 years, and then after 20 years they get parole and they're out. Things can change. Things very much can change. So it's going to start out looking very, very bleak for Hannah. All right. That being said, we're just going to make it very quick because I think some other great people are live streaming tonight. Let me just double check and see who is on, in case we can jump over and join them to see what's going on. So give me just a little check, see who's up. Hold tight. Might find some variety here. See, Broken Baker's on. Mandu. Surviving the Survivor. Let's see, Broken Baker is following this one right here. Let's jump over and join him. I'm not sure how long he's going to stay up. But let's join Broken Baker and see if you guys can jump over and see if he has some interesting stuff to add to this, as he's followed the same trial, watched the same trial that we have. See if it'll load here. How much time she can get? Life without parole. That's what she's facing. Man, that's a tough one to end on. Man, I have to think about this one. Honestly, this was one I struggled with to find, you know, where I make peace with the verdict, whether it's one way or the other. And I'll have to put some more thought into this one. All right, on that note, we're going to transfer you over to Broken Baker. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone to make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live. Again, tomorrow morning, it's going to be, I think they start at 9 o'clock. Oh, wait, they won't because court's over. Let's start at 9 o'clock. Let's do that, 9 o'clock. Thank you all. It has been wonderful. I've got to trim this down because I completely messed up the entrance. So we're going to cut the first part off and make it right. All right, have a good night, everybody. Love you all. Be kind to each other. We'll see you later. Bye.